All right, I just got to give my immediate reaction to chapter 12. And we're starting in this third sub book called Something Breathes. And if that isn't compelling, especially what I've just read, I don't know what is. And it has these about four big scenes, sort of. But it starts with this epigraph. They call them epigraphs. And it starts with this at the start of chapter 12. It says, Light, shadow, dark. This is a war unending. And it's interesting because we've seen we have the three Tist, but it's not just them anymore. It has been wrapped up in all sorts of things. Remember the what Leoric said, that the Tist would maybe be meddling in kind of affecting the world of humans, but it might be kind of the other way around, and it might be even more dangerous. Now, we start with this awesome scene with on the drift. What the heck is it called? The drift of the, the drift of Valley or something like that. And we have Darist, who's getting ready to go and fight off and have this last stand with the Tist Edur. And Cutter, Crocus, is going to go with them. And I'm not going to go through everything, but this is where we find out that the sword's name is Grief, which is there even a cooler name for a sword? Probably lots of people have opinions on that. I think that's about the coolest name you can have. And it has this other sort of name attached to it, which is Vengeance. And it sounds like you take one of the two kinds of intentions behind it, and that's kind of what you decide to name it. It can be sort of one or the other, which I think that is super cool. So they're getting ready to go, and we don't know yet if Absolar is okay, but it's cool because they have Darist, who turns out to be Andarist, Animander Rake's younger brother, who is ticked off with his older brother. And man, this used to be Animander Rake's sword, which I'm so excited about. And it's a thinner sword. I love the way these Tist commanders fight. So far, it just takes up a lot of room. It's very, 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 very cool. So I'm not going to talk about the actual fight itself, because if you've read it, then that's fine. But the Tistandi, some younger ones arrive, which I think are like the grandkids of Animander Rake. And yeah. I just have some notes here. Okay, and we find out that not only are there other Tistandi up there, some younger ones that are now with Absolar, there are these other Malazans who have shown up, and they're kind of holed up on the island trying to just survive. So after they kind of take out some of these Tist Edur, Crocus goes out to find these other Malazans and convinces them to kind of go and to get out of this little area. And in this next fight, Crocus goes back and he hears all this exploding and things like that, just this cracking of sorcery, and he finds, I think, there's 4 Tist Edur who Absolar's on the ground, the Tistandi people are on the ground, and Darist is on the ground, and they are just kind of pumping this area with sorcery. And what Cutter does is I shouldn't say finally, this has happened pretty quick. I was expecting this maybe even not even in this book or way later in this book, but Crocus, summons Blind, who takes one look at this, and it sounds like he kind of backs up, and then Cotillion shows up, and we finally see Cotillion do some work, and he has his rope with him. And that is just, if that was in a movie theater, that would be like the coolest moment because it's just so visual and it sounds just, yeah, like we would just finally get a chance to see this, uh, you know, patron assassin do all this work. So Andarist is down, and the last thing Cotillion says to Crocus, or to Cutter now, is that to pass on the name of Andarist's sword. And so Crocus isn't going to keep it, but this Malazan is going to stay and defend the throne for a while, as far as I can tell. And I say that a lot. But he is going to name it Vengeance. He's going to take the vengeance side of it. And he, as long as he's kind of singular in purpose, I assume that kind of gives him the power to kind of imbues it with extra power or something like that, which, very, 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 very cool. Now, the Malazans, this should hope that the Tist Edur don't get the throne. And, it's so cool. They are trying to regain that throne. But it is humans that have temporarily occupied it. So they have kind of tainted Shadow. Okay, so we get Callum, and he's with these other people. Remember, he feels he's outranked technically, but he says, I'm going to retake my status as the leader of the Claw, which means I am only outranked by Clawmaster Topper, the Adjunct, and the Empress herself. So yes, because he's a bridge burner, and he's a Claw leader of a hand, which means he outranks, and so he can kind of take charge. And man, this is maybe one of the coolest sequences as well. When they look down into this well or this pit, and they find this chained massive guy. Well, they don't know how deep it goes, and they drop this big rock on like a rope, and it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And as they see it resting on the person, they can tell, like, this guy's 3 times as big as anyone. So it sounds like this guy's Toblakai. Finally, we get Toblakai, and then he's down there, and he looks dead or whatever. And so they have this little situation where they're kind of going to slowly lower. And Callum starts going down, and then a rope just yanks him down. And they're on their way to find these other 2 people. But yanks him down. He has this he comes face to face. He gets pulled into this massive Toblakai that should be dead, but he's kind of rotted, and he's chained there. And now I'm so fascinated by the Nameless Ones who keep chaining these people. Did they chain the crippled god? Did they chain this dragon later on in the chapter? Did they chain this? I am so interested in all of that. This guy's looking hungry. This guy that's supposed to be dead, who's kind of demon possessed. And I like that because when we've seen sort of things like this where if they could kind of trap a demon within some kind of vessel. It sounds like right now this demon is within this Toblakai, but if it bleeds and people drink that, then it'll be like how the crows ate the crippled god, or how they ate Coltane and stuff, where it can kind of disperse its possession through people drinking that blood. So they got to stop doing that with the well. He kills this demon, or he stabs the Toblakai, kind of releases the demon. I wasn't totally sure if that had to do with like his daggers that he was using, but he releases it, gets back up there, says, "You guys got to go because this demon's going to be coming after me, and it's probably going to happen real quick. You guys make your way to Adjunct Tavor. I will be going this other way. I think he's going kind of north and going to kind of loop around the north of the whirlwind and try to get inside the whirlwind before this thing gets him. Let me see. Okay, they talk about the nameless ones. I'm not going to go through all that, but the demon's going to hunt him. He's kind of enemy number 1. And as he's going on this desert, man, this part was so cool. It's already kind of taken over this winged sort of creature. The demon that was in the Toblakai, again, as far as I can understand, is now in this winged creature, grabs Callum, kind of yanks him into... Callum kind of falls into this cave. It says he's cartwheeling down, lifts him up, drops him, breaks his back, and waits for him to wake up and says, hey, do you want to do this again? This is just like the matron, what she was doing, just squeezing talk over and over. But now Callum's about to have this sort of thing. Yeah. So it sounds like this guy was chained by the nameless ones. Better to perhaps when you can't kill something because it would let loose whatever demon is within it, maybe it's best for someone to take that on and to be chained. Like this Toblakai, we don't know if, like, he wasn't himself anymore by the time Callum got to him. Maybe he took on this demon and was willing to do this. Maybe the crippled god, maybe that withered dude isn't maybe he used to be some guy, some mage who's like, put him on me, put this demon into me and chain me. That's my guess. And he just wouldn't be himself anymore. We've seen that sort of thing in some other stuff, which is very cool, and I think that's what's happening here. I might be wrong. Let's see. We find, the ancient fortress. He's almost at this. He's almost at this whirlwind, and he doesn't quite make it. We get more word on the nameless ones. It's the makers of this ancient fortress, long forgotten. There was only darkness there before, though. Sounds like darkness. Maybe the Tist Andi made the fortress or something, you know. I'm just going on for the ride, and now that I'm going back to think about it, you know, I know I'll be way off on a bunch of things. But man, I've really liked this book. This is the one, you know, I liked the ride in Memories of Ice, but this is the one where it feels like, oh, this is what this is the kind of stuff that I wanted from the series and the details that I wanted. So I've liked this. I've liked this equally as much as Memories of Ice in some ways. Okay. Let me skip ahead a little bit. And then we get this thing where I wasn't totally sure. It does have mention of the wolf champion kind of being selected. So I don't know if I didn't really understand exactly what it was implying there. You know, this beast of thrones stayed unoccupied, had not the reawakened wolf gods known an urgent need for a champion. So, like, is Callum being picked here? I didn't understand this. The champion would taste blood, and soon. So it doesn't sound like it's him. I might have to read that little spot again. It starts with page 545, and it is the whole 546, and it's a part of 547. I'd be totally willing to kind of have people give some insights on that if you have some, in a way that wouldn't give things away, because, you know. Let's see, and I might just reread that myself. Okay, we have Callum wake up, and look who it is. It is Iskarl Pust. He wants his bone whistle back to whistle Aftorian. And when Callum wakes up again, he's kind of on this altar-looking thing. And he's being healed back to whatever. And it sounds like his wife is a soul taken. And he's kind of trying to get away from her. He's been hiding from her, and she comes into the room and is like, I knew he was in there. And Callum knows that she could be a spider, but if she turns into a spider, it sounds like Iskarl Pust will just go and squish her or something like that. So I mean, that doesn't have much to do with what else is going on. Okay, we get to the nascent realm, and this is where we have Onrak, and they're preparing this circle, and it's going to take a little while. They're talking about Trull and Onrak sort of talk about some things. Onrak looks at his kin, and he doesn't have the same connection as he used to. Something's been kind of shorn, and he just sees them as there's these withered corpses of things that were once noble. They keep going. Let me see. Yeah, they talk about how once this is done, they will take Onrak, and Trull doesn't want that to happen. And so it's ready to go, and now these Leozans guys are going to say, we are going to do this to prove to you that our god is not lost. This Osiric guy. So even though we think that it might be someone pretending to be their god under the guise of someone, under a different guise, or under a guise. Okay. And we don't know. There's this question here. Where are these Leozan from? What does the one hidden behind the guise of Osiric now seek? These are questions that I have. These Leozan, I'm so compelled by this. There's this super deep section on page 554, right in the middle there, about shadow and spirit. Is this when? Yes, this is where it is Onrak, or it is Trull or Onrak. The battered war. Yeah, it sounds like it's Onrak. Who's contemplating this? Contemplating the shadows. Contemplating the shadows. Which is a very cool part. There's this thing. Yeah. There shall be proof that our master is far from lost to us, and you shall know his power. And there's this line that I underlined. I just wanted to underline it here because it says blood lies at the heart of Osric's power. And when I see blood, I think of Krull. So who knows? We haven't heard from Krull for a while. They enter the circle. It's ritual time. We have the kind of the fire going, starting to grow with the Trull and the not the Talani Mass inside of it. They're doing their thing. These Leosin guys are outside of it just watching, doing their own thing. And Onrak can sense the approach of the Leosin god. Cautious and mistrustful. And he's going to tell Trull exactly when to do his do his blood. And when he does, the portal opens, and it's really cool because we have all these different. It sounds like there's many portals, or it's like these columns, these tunnels that go in all these different areas. And Onrak kind of vows himself in. He is that this vows himself. He kind of has a vow in protecting Trull from that time forward, which is awesome. Who the crap is this Onrak? What the heck did he do to get in this much trouble? I don't know if we've even heard Onrak's name before. Sometimes that happens and you just don't notice it at first. But I don't know. It's epic that he's bound himself here. And the one of the Bonecaster, Talan, can turn himself into like a ape or something, and goes to attack Trull and to kind of pursue them as they leave the Nascent. And these other ones are leaving, but it's swallowed up by chaos. And these other ones, the other Talan, before the Leosins are able to tell, are going to go in kind of either enter into this path of light or this path of fire or whatever to kill this god of the Leosin, this Osrisk, or whoever's pretending to be Osrisk. And holy smokes, it's so awesome. So let me just see. I did write a couple little notes. It doesn't matter. Okay, so the very last scene. I just read it just now. This is my immediate reaction. This is where Lestara and Pearl are walking through the Imperial ash. And they see that this ash has been here for a long time, but some people have been dying on this pathway who probably didn't die at the time of whatever this event was, which we think it's Callum's. No, Calor's ash, right? And but other people have gone in there, they've died, they're kind of confused about that, and they start falling. It starts to kind of rumble down as they're at this pit. They fall through this ash, and they get right to this ledge, and they see a dragon nailed there and chained, which still seems to be alive. And it is an Odotarl dragon. Like, what the crap? And it, this dragon is different than the other ones. This dragon, where most dragons are bound to sorcery, this dragon kind of drains sorcery. It's the counterbalance to all the other dragons who have existed and will exist, which is so cool. We're on the track. We're finding more of these bound nameless ones. I wonder when we see the jade giant thing, if it will have like chains around it once they kind of uncover this giant in the Odotarl things, or many of them. I wish I knew. I have some questions. I am glad that I have some questions now, because sometimes when I read the first book, I was like, it's cool, but I don't have questions. I mean, I have a million questions, but now that it's hard to have it's hard to just hold a million questions. At least now I have like 5 big questions that I want answered. And that's you just feel better when it's just not quite as many questions to juggle. Still a lot, but whatever. They use Pearl's kind of hover power to go down, and then they enter Thyr, or the Elder Warren from which Thyr is derived. Curled something, which I think this means they enter this kind of golden or this light Tist Leosin Warren or something. And it's just like fire. It's so hot. It's terrible in there. What they find is they find one of these guys, one of these Talani Mass who had just entered there, has been attacked. Oh, sorry. They have the big giant, the big dragon who's been chained there, and then they see these other huge footprints of other, what I assume are other dragons who had chained him. So these dragons who chain things, it sounds like these are dragons, perhaps, that do all these chainings of different sizes. I could be totally wrong. They leave. This Talan has been struck. It's basically dead. Has been decapitated, but he's still alive because Talani Mass are just like that. But he has dealt a mortal blow, perhaps on Osric, or something. And they agree that they will allow him. They will help him as far as they get some answers here. So he's been crushed. And they're going to put him in the crotch of a tree, looking up at the sky. And it's interesting because this dragon who was chained also had this other sky kind of luminescent kind of sorcery to make it look like the night sky, which would make it seem like it's totally from an alien world, far, far away. Who knows? Unless it's just on the other side of the planet, and they're just getting the southern sky, and they don't have the concept of a round world. But I don't know. I like this concept of people looking up at the stars, because that was in our own history, and people had their own ideas about what the stars were. The Talani Mass look up at the stars. The Teblor look at the stars. Man, my mind's just okay. The Nameless Ones, it sounds like I'm probably supposed to be making a big connection here. But my mind's working. My mind's still working. Okay. So, yeah. And that's where it ends. That's a crazy chapter. What do you think of this chapter? If you're reading this, are you kind of where I am? Some people out there, are you looking at this totally as a veteran, these videos, or are you also kind of partway through this series and through this book? I'm sure a lot of people who go here or probably come to my channel, have already read through this series and are just interested in having people, man, now I'm thinking about looking up again. I think the Chained Dragon was looking up. Again, I think of the Olmecs, the Olmec heads. I think of that Toblakai that was down that well thing, kind of maybe looking up. Maybe he was chained, but at least got the was able to look up, kind of like as a mercy. Lots to think about. But yeah, I'll see you on the next one, whenever that's going to be. I'll have some more joke ones coming up, probably next week. But I want to get through this book because it's taken me too long. I want to get through it. And I'll see you on the next one.